We'll get started. Hey, everybody, welcome to our weekly Data Talk, a show where we talk with data science leaders from around the world. And I am super excited today. We're talking to Roisin McCarthy, Payal Jain, Rachel Keane. They are the hosts and the people making it happen at womenindata.co.uk. For those that don't know, Women in Data holds conferences and meetups encouraging women in technology and AI. They're doing phenomenal work. We actually chatted, I think, a year ago. I can't believe it's been that long. It's been too long. But I'm super excited to have you guys back on the show. I would love to hear what has been happening with the conferences, what you guys have been up to. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Mike, and happy International Women's Day to you.
Oh, yes, for sure. You know what? It's been so all week long at our Experian campuses, we've been celebrating International Women's Week. We've been having events happening on campus. We've been having WebEx events. It's been really cool to see how here at Experian, how the leadership is really all in on helping to motivate and encourage more women in fintech and in the roles here at Experian, in leadership roles. So it's been fantastic. It's been a fantastic International Women's Week, and today is International Women's Day. So what a great way to end the week.
Absolutely. And what a positive message there to start on, Mike, and the fact that Experian are really, really taking this seriously and backing it and making it part of the culture there at Experian. So yeah, thrilled to hear that.
Yeah, it's been great. And by the way, I was on the womenindata.co.uk website yesterday as I was getting ready for today's interview. And I don't know why I didn't see it before, but I finally looked at the 20 in Data booklet. I think that was produced like last year. So I'm like a year late to this booklet. But you guys, if you got to Google it and find it and check this out. It's called 20 in Data. It's on the womenindata.co.uk website for those that are listening. And it is awesome. It has quotes from all these different women who are leaders in technology and data science. And I actually shared it with my team, and I got so much positive feedback. It's just very, very motivational. Yeah,
exactly what we set out to do with it, with the 20 in Data and Technology. And it's one of the main things we're hoping to talk to you about today, Mike, because actually Team Weird are actually starting the nominations process. We launch 20 in Data and Technology nominations today, International Women's Day. So that is one of the big news releases from us here at Team Weird today on the 8th of March.
Oh, that's awesome. So so where do people go to nominate people?
You have it there on the bottom of the screen on the chat. It's www.womenindata.co.uk. And there you can either nominate a woman that inspires you, who motivates you, who is a role model to you, or you can nominate yourself. We're looking for more self-nominations this year. Stand up and be counted.
Excellent, excellent. You know what? I know that a lot of people are sometimes wondering, especially men are wondering, how do they get involved in supporting women? Well, this is a very tangible, practical way that you can do it. By going to the website and just nominating a woman who has influenced you, who has impacted you in a positive way. Like, there's a very practical thing you can do. Takes probably like less than a minute to go do it. But I want to encourage you guys, go and do that, because these women need to be recognized for the work that they're doing.
We had some phenomenal nominations last year from male employers and employees. In fact, we had such a great mix of nominations, both male and female. But yeah, we're hoping that we're going to get more males this year getting involved in Women in Data, full stop.
Awesome, awesome. So tell me about the meetups. What's been happening with, I mean, we haven't chatted in about a year. I'd love to just catch up and find out what's been going on.
Well, Payal, if you can start with the first meetup we held in 2019, you were hosting.
Definitely. So, you know, the meetups are new for us, like you said, Mike. And actually, with this year, we really want to regionalize some of the events. So we're bringing, you know, kind of smaller events into organizations, and anyone can attend. Men and women actually turned up to the last one. So it was held at Expedia, and we had some amazing talks, really impressive talks on some of the machine learning that's happening, on some analytics on photographs. for hotel.com. And so it was just a brilliant way for individuals to kind of meet, but also to get to understand some of the technicalities of the in-depth analysis and actually kind of talk to and network to some of their colleagues in the industry. So we've got our next one coming up in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, 21st of March with Lloyd's Banking Group.
And then we've got 14 more, I think, during the year. So
wow.
we're really busy, and there's lots of opportunity to kind of take part.
Payal, yeah. Who's like the target audience? Who are like, are there certain like job roles? If you're in this type of job role, you should go to this event, or is it really open to anybody who is interested in improving their skill set in technology?
It's anyone that's an analyst level all the way up, actually. So, last time we had some senior people there too. So it's a real mix that we had. But we would just encourage everyone to try and come along, because we really want to make sure that it's open and it's diverse. And we get a mix of questions as well, because it just enriches the conversation.
Definitely. And Mike, the last meetup, we focused the topics very heavily around machine learning, pattern recognition, AI generally. But what we were trying to do is showcase the brilliance of the opportunities that are available for people who possibly aren't practicing in that field in data. So maybe they're looking to make that move into that area, which we know is really under-resourced and skilled by women. So we're trying to showcase the fantastic work that's going on in all areas of data and giving everybody something that they can relate to or that interests them, and giving them real tangible access to that and subject matter experts.
That's excellent. It sounds like great opportunities to network and find mentors to help people, improve their careers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big time.
So I'm kind of curious about, I was chatting with some people at work, and I was telling them about this conversation. My friend Patty, when I told her, I said, "Oh, let me know if you have any questions for this amazing team." And and literally within like 10 minutes, she shot back with like 10 questions. She was on fire because she was excited about what you guys are doing. So I have to read some of these questions because I would love to get you guys' feedback on this. So her first question I thought was really, really good. She says, "Well, how can women just starting out in the tech field find the confidence to earn a seat at the table?"
Interesting one, actually. And it was something that was raised very heavily at Women in Data 2018 at the flagship. Confidence is a really hard thing to go and just get, Mike. You don't just go and pick it off the shelf. You can't grab it from a mentor. But actually something that we all really related to was the difference is maybe it's not confidence that we need. Maybe it's courage that we need to go and do it. To stand up, be counted, and actually face the fact that we don't have all of the skills, but we want to. So I think courage is as important as confidence. And that was a big learning from 2018 for the WIG community.
And absolutely, to know that you have the confidence in yourself to gain those skills, if you have the courage to take that first step. And I think, we had the biggest audience ever at Women in Data 2018. We were very lucky. We had 1,000 female data practitioners. It was a huge conference. And I think actually that confidence came from being surrounded and connecting with so many like-minded individuals.
I think that's right. I think what a wonderful way to boost confidence and courage by going into these types of events where you're surrounded by other people in your field who are in it with you. And you can kind of hear their challenges, their successes, and you feel like this is my network, this is my people. And that can be very, very encouraging and helpful as we're all trying to navigate our careers, right?
Yeah. And I think, from my perspective, I mentor quite a few, men and women actually, and a lot of them, talk about this word of imposter syndrome, and, they're almost afraid to speak when they go to meetings. And I think, I think the thing I challenge them with is, what's the worst that can happen if you do speak up? Maybe your comment is not taken forward, but it's better to say it than not to say it. And I think, it is going into those meetings and having the courage, and just trying it a couple of times, maybe in a safe environment to start with, and it has to come with practice. So it really is important that we don't just keep holding back, because actually the fact that we have these thoughts, they're there to share, otherwise it's a wasted thought. And so it really is important to speak up, and you know, you've just got to experiment, and over time you practice and you get better at it. You know, if I think about myself years ago, I was really quiet, and I was one of those people that were afraid to kind of say what I wanted to say in a meeting. But again, through practice, and when people start to really pick up what you're saying, you're thinking, okay, my ideas are good. You know, people want to hear them. So it really is important that, you know, you take that step and move forwards. And you know, the role of mentors help with this, because sometimes you can talk about how you feel with them, and then they give you a little bit of, you know, courage. They give you a bit of an arm around the shoulder, and it just gives you the confidence to just push yourself ahead a little bit.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, Payal, I think it's super important. Not only should all of us be very intentional about speaking up, I think that's a really, really important thing that you shared. I think it's also important for us to be intentional about asking others in the room their thoughts, right? Yes. Like I've been in meetings where I would see somebody who's really, really quiet, and then another person at the table would be like, I haven't heard from you. I would love to hear what you think about this. Like that simple question of just bringing somebody who's quiet into the conversation, like I would love to hear your perspective on it, is a great way to kind of nurture that confidence. And that's something we all can do. We can all be intentional about asking others their thoughts.
Exactly that.
So Patty was also, she was talking about this term. Have you heard of the term mansplaining?
Yeah.
Have you heard that term before? So she was like talking about how, you know, there's lots of studies that show that men tend to dominate conversations. And she was wondering, have you ever experienced or seen mansplaining, where that it's that time when a guy tends to interrupt or speak over a woman? So for example, like Payal might be explaining something around machine learning, and somebody would be like, Payal, let me explain this. I got this. Like totally interrupting your flow, and being very, very disrespectful. And so Patty was wondering, how do you deal when that happens in the workplace?
So I've had it happen to me kind of quite a few times. No, almost daily. Yes, you're right, Roisin. But I think, you know, sometimes you can let it go. Sometimes you can make a point out of it by saying, oh yeah, that's great that you're aligned to what I've just said. You know, so, but it's probably bringing a bit of humor in sometimes into the conversation, into the room. But I think, you know, we shouldn't take it negatively. Sometimes, you know, they may be adding to the point. But maybe on occasions, it doesn't hurt to say to someone after the meeting, did you realize what you've just done? Because, you know, half the time they didn't realize what they've just done. And actually, when you tell them how you feel afterwards, it's just new information to them they hadn't realized. And so, you know, I think we can laugh about it. There are ways to deal with it in the moment. But I think sometimes if it's really impacted you, then don't be afraid to just speak to the individual. I think that's really important.
That's really, really good. I think that's super important. I think you're right, Payal. I think sometimes the person that does it doesn't realize it, and they need to know so they don't do it again, or they're more mindful about when I do speak up about something, that am I interfering or disrupting another person's thought? Because it could be that the person was just not thinking and just like, oh, I can just explain this quicker. But obviously, they need to be made aware that's not right, and they need to be sensitive to the other people in the room.
And I've seen women do it as well, Mike. So it really does happen all the time. So it's not just men, you know, it is men and women. So I think, again, it's just they're trying to be helpful sometimes, or, you know, there's thoughts going around in their mind. But I think it's really important as an individual to say to someone, this is how I felt.
I think also the other part of mansplaining that is a big impact is when a female would like to put her point across, whether it's in a boardroom, a discussion, whatever, and nobody really takes it very seriously. And then another guy comes in and gives the same point and it's great, exactly the same point, but puts a different spin on it. Fair enough.
It's totally and utterly recognised and celebrated as the genius idea. That's a hugely confidence knocking thing to have happen to you publicly. And I know how that feels. It's something that people really should think about when they're listening. That's listening skills. And that's something that we all need to do. Again, it's men and women that are more than capable of making that situation happen. Being able to listen, I think, is the key, and taking that seriously, especially when there's a minority of any variety around a table. I think it's really important to hear that diverse view and listen to it.
Yeah, no doubt. I think one of the things that I've been excited about at Experian is that we've been really putting an effort around these diversity and inclusion events here on campus. We have a number of different executive resource groups that are dedicated to supporting different cultural groups within Experian, different groups of that have certain interests. And for me, it's been really exciting to see this kind of like, it reminds me back in high school where you have all these different clubs on campus and you kind of find your group, right? And I love that because it's like a great chance to like meet people outside of your business silo, right? When you work at a company, you oftentimes get trapped in these like your business silo, like you work with the same people, right? The same types of teams. And, but executive resource groups and companies that support D&I events, like what a great opportunity to like network, meet people outside your team, because like the more diverse like your group is, like the more interesting ideas come up, things you never thought about. And it has to do with like diverse, like culturally, diverse with age, gender, all that like brings up really interesting conversation. For me, like I've been really excited here at Experian because the leadership has really been talking about how important diversity and inclusion is on campus and making an effort to get leaders involved in leading these different groups. And so, yeah, like to your point, like diversity is crucial, like supporting that on campus at your offices, like we all have a part to play in that.
I think you're right, Mike. I mean, there's been some amazing research done recently by Citibank to say that organizations that are more diverse, they have on average a 15% uplift in their financial performance versus those that aren't. And actually, I was talking to a group of individuals yesterday at a kind of International Women's Day event, and someone asked me in the audience, does that mean it's only related to women? And I was like, absolutely not. It's not that, you know, you put in a bunch of women in around the board table and suddenly financial performance is going to go up if it was that easy. But it was actually more that the organization is more open to listening, to hearing diverse thoughts. And actually that's what leads to the uplift in financial performance. And so, you know, it is really important. And I think just globally, we're not quite there yet. So there is still a lot more to do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I know the leadership here at Experian is definitely saying like, we're not doing enough. Like we need more diversity at Experian. And obviously they're hosting all these events. We have lots of different groups on campus. Like I'm seeing tons of positive change happening in the organization and huge support from leadership to like promote diversity and inclusion. But what I also love is that they're saying like, this is not enough. We need more, we need more, we need more. And when I hear that from the top, like that's super encouraging.
Very much so. Very much so. And, you know, we all have to do this journey together. So if it's the top that is, you know, writing the directive and pushing the company and financing these changes and pushing the culture, everybody needs to be with it. So it has to include everyone right down to the grassroots, to those that are entering the organization. And not enough businesses are taking it seriously from top to bottom. I think they throw money at it. And I don't think that they really plan the strategy of how this can change and affect change. So it sounds like Experian are doing a phenomenal job with that.
What advice do you have for people who are at organizations where maybe diversity and inclusion has not been a big part of the mandate from leadership, but they want to make change. They want to create a different culture shift of the company, but they're not sure how to begin to do that. Do you have any advice for that person?
Well, I think that firstly, you've got to be prepared to stand up and be counted. And we come back to the point of confidence and courage. not an easy thing to do. Be prepared that you might be shot down. And if you are, I think that that tells you enough about a culture that you shouldn't be working for that business if it's something you are passionate about. But first and foremost, try and create a committee, a group, support in numbers. Make that group as diverse as possible in its thinking. Include people you think may challenge you on it. And try and set up a community setting in a small subset of the company and show the impact that that's creating straight off the bat. I think that's a good way that you can do it without cost, without finance, without budgeting. When an organization can see impact of any variety, you'll get support very quickly.
I'm curious at the various events that you host, as you're having conversations with women about how they see women in technology and where things are going, what sorts of concerns or successes are you seeing happening with more women getting in tech?
It's a big question. There's lots of both. So I think maybe we can all answer some of the successes. We'll start with the positive for sure, the successes that we're seeing. Well, first and foremost, in the UK this week, we've just had our power list of data professionals announced, and we're seeing more numbers than ever of women being represented in that power list of 100, which is excellent news. Lots of our with community that are in there as well. So there is effective change there. That started, I think there was 12 of the 100 originally that were women. That's up to in just under 40 now. So we've got 40% nearly of the data leaders in the UK are represented by women, which is phenomenal news.
That's awesome.
I think one of the changes is the fact that everybody's starting to reach out to one another. They understand the importance of connecting with one another, sharing their knowledge, their experiences, offering advice, helping a hand. And I think that's making measurable change as well.
And I think for me, I see more networks for women. You know, so you've got different forums and different meetups happening. And actually, it's just fantastic that women are actually collaborating and working together on solving problems and actually bringing each other out and creating this environment. I think it's it really has changed over the last few years in terms of the number of those types of events happening.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike, to the point, Martina and I were at a data conference, a small data conference this week, which was primarily sort of data practitioners kind of mid-level, and it was really great to see women and men at sort of that mid-level speaking you know, to this audience and gaining the confidence in this area, and I thought that was phenomenal.
I'm curious now about, we're seeing these advances, these strides, more conversations, and obviously women in data and your events is helping to create this atmosphere. But I'm also curious about what are still some of the challenges, some of the problems. Are you seeing any trends in upcoming issues that women face in technology?
So I was out and about this week talking to a few different organizations, and actually one of them is that there's still a bias that you know, exists in the recruitment process and, you know, how people are being interviewed, you know, in case studies. And, you know, what these organizations don't realize is that they've already taken out a lot of the population before a woman comes in to be interviewed. And then but they still don't realize that process and the impact that's having. And I think it's quite sad that, you know, it can be just small words, it can be the way an ad looks, some of the technicalities of what they're looking for, you know, how long the wish list of skills are, but it's turning some women off these types of roles. And I think the awareness of that, it actually surprised me when I was, you know, talking to these organizations, because that, you know, that it's so simple to fix, to start talking to this kind of untapped population that they're currently not doing.
Yeah, agreed. I think that just following on from that, the style of attraction hasn't developed. We know we're all challenged globally by a shortage of data practitioners, regardless of variety and what it is. Ultimately, we need to connect as organizations and develop this talent, but if we're not reaching over the threshold to even get them to apply to us, there's a real fundamental problem there. What women in data have established is women approach job search very, very differently to men. They prefer referrals and recommendations. So we need to use these networks far deeper to be able to penetrate and supply the amounts of women that organizations will need to diversify their data teams. So I think organizations generally need to think far more broadly on how they approach recruitment and attraction. Then there's the other issues then of engagement through that recruitment process. And finally, then retention of the person. Each of those stages are as equally important. And women do these things differently to men. It's fundamental on that front. So organizations need to recognize it's not one hat fits all.
What advice do you have for hiring managers as they are, they put up new job roles, it goes up on the company career website, and the HR team begins to receive resumes, and some companies are using software, sometimes AI is involved to kind of sort through the resumes to help bring up what it thinks is going to be appropriate. Obviously, there's been some examples in the news where we've heard about AI bias, right, on resumes, where, especially in technology roles. I think the last example I heard was as the AI was kind of going through previous resumes of hires at the company, a lot of the resumes in the tech type roles tended to be more male. And so the AI was being trained on all this data of resumes that were more, the city in favor of more men. There were more men in this roles, and the AI just became more biased to then look at resumes that were more men based. Obviously, that was it's a very simple example, and that problem has been worked on. But that's like a really simple example of how bias has crept into AI and needs to be worked out. But on from the people manager side, what advice would you give as they're beginning to sort their resumes to help have a more diverse set?
I think this is a really interesting one because Rachel and I, doing the day job of recruitment, which we do, we have this conversation really regularly.
What advice can we give with that?
We haven't got enough time. We haven't got enough time.
We're on a time.
I think the major thing for me, my point would be that we say it all the time when we're referring to data. I think we need to put the human back in recruitment. People buy from people. Mike, if I want to come on and work for Experian, I don't want to be dealt with through an AI machine learning process. Although that may be my area of expertise, I still want to understand what the culture is like. And I want to recognize the individuals that work there. And Mike, I want that personal experience. So if you're a line manager recruiting the skill set right now, it's time to stand up and motivate and get moving and talking to people. That's your role as a leader, to go out and communicate. And today's hires want to see that.
Absolutely, and I think, we've been talking about, the Women in Data meetups and the opportunities to be able to transition your skills into maybe different sectors or different technologies. And I think when you're actually looking through CVs or resumes and you can see that somebody has got, a wealth of talent in a certain area that can be transitioned, and they come from perhaps a commercial background that again has some similarities, it's about picking up the phone and having a conversation with that person, because there is no way that any person in the whole world can detail what they're about and what they've done in one CV, which is, what Roisin and I kind of spend our lives doing, other than Women in Data, of course. The thing is, when you delve a little bit deeper into somebody, you start really getting that comfortable conversation where people start telling you a little bit more about what they're about, what they can achieve, what their areas of dreams and desires are. And that's what people want in teams, isn't it? Somebody that wants to grow, somebody that wants to be encouraged, somebody that can mentor and motivate the team. Because I think actually, the skills can be taught if you're coming from that background, surely.
What do you call it? Take the robot. There's a phrase that you use particularly.
Oh well, I think the phrase you're thinking of is, it's the soft skills part and robot-proof skills. Yeah. So it is around humanizing the process, because like Roisin said earlier, women, as we know, are more relationship driven. So they take a job because of a referral, and so it's important that you know who you're going to go and work for, because they want to have a line manager and a boss that is going to give them something as an individual.
Payal, as you have gone through the process of hiring teams. I'm kind of curious about your process to make sure you have a diverse set of team members, because you have to be very intentional about it.
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting, but this is where it really is important to have some females in the team, because actually what I've found over the years is that once you've got 1 or 2 females in your team that are the hiring managers, suddenly diversity just seems to happen, because women sometimes want to work for other women or know that it's a diverse team. I was reading a study a couple of days ago saying actually it's better to start thinking about diversity when your teams are quite small and you've got at least 1 or 2 women in it, and then grow out, versus when you've already got a team of 20 and you're trying to bring in your first woman into it. It's really difficult for that woman to say, well, this is the team I'm going to come and join. Whereas where it's already mixed, it just feels like it's a more open environment. And so, you know, what I found over the years is as I've led teams, it has attracted women to come and apply. It may not be to work for me, it could be from some of my directs, but actually it has made a difference. And that's why having role models, having more women moving to senior roles, into these managerial roles, that will make a difference in terms of who wants to come and apply. And, you know, I've found over the years, you just see it, the maths proves itself. When you've got a woman leader, they naturally have a more diverse team to a male leader.
Payal, so I think that's an awesome approach for building up a team. Like, you start from the ground up. Like, that's, you stress importance and diversity. Like, that is like essential. But what about those teams that maybe tend to be more male dominated, and the leader's like, this is a problem. We need a more diverse set on my team. I need different perspectives. I need to hear different ideas, and diversity can do that. How does a leader begin to, I guess, diversify the team that's already, let's say there's 20 people on the team and the leader's like, we need diversity?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. Organizationally wide, it's important to be out there in different forums to actually say that, you know, like Experian are, of you're being out there saying diversity matters. And actually it doesn't matter if that spokesperson is a man or a woman, but they're saying diversity matters. And actually you need men to be having those conversations. So that's kind of the first thing at an organizational level. But then I guess when it starts coming down to the team, it's changing, you know, there's a couple of tactics you can do of changing your recruitment process to say, well, I want to review all the CVs, or, you know, why don't we bring in some women to join us in the interview process, even though they're not part of the team, to just make sure that candidates get a variety of people and diversity of who they're being interviewed by. So, you know, I guess within data teams or analytical teams, you don't just work as a silo, you've got stakeholders. And, you know, you leverage some of those female stakeholders to come and join you to help solve the problem. So I think it really is important that, you know, we don't work as a silo all the time, and that we leverage the people around you to actually bring that diversity into the team. And I've done that a few times, actually, you know, if I think about it, you know, when either I've been building out a team and it's been quite small, I've invited other people to come and join that leadership team just to bring a different perspective in. Because, you know, I guess when you're analytical, you've got a certain way of thinking. And sometimes I've brought in, you know, commercial or marketing people in just to change the conversation a bit and mix it up. And actually, it grows the whole team, actually, because the analysts learn a bit about, you know, the fluffy stuff, and the fluffy people learn a bit about the analytics, and it's brilliant. Yeah,
no, that's awesome. I just read this article. It was a study done by Ernst & Young about diversity. And what I loved about it was that it stressed not only diversity in gender, not only diversity in ethnicity, but also age. And it talked about belonging in the workplace, and it interviewed people from these different backgrounds. And what they found was that the baby boomer generation was feeling more lonely at work. As the staff was getting younger, coming in, baby boomers were feeling sometimes left out of different meetups, different events, like they weren't that younger group, right? And what spoke to me was like, diversity is like so much more than gender. It's so much more than ethnicity, right? It is like, it is age, it is background, it's where you grew up, it's different political viewpoint, right? It's all of that. It's like bring it all in. Like we need right?
Intersectionality. It's intersectionality, and you know, looking at all aspects of what makes us who we are, what makes us diverse as organisations, and how that needs to be built out. Because of course, things like social and economic backgrounds will make a huge impact on that. Age, specifically on socialising. For sure. So all of these things have to be accounted for. And again, you need, as leaders in business, to be thinking that on a big scale. It's a hard thing to do. No one's saying this is easy or it's got a silver bullet that's going to sort
it. Getting back to the mission of Women in Data and helping more women to be successful in their careers, what are ways you'd like to see leaders at companies take an active and intentional role in helping develop women in leadership?
Specifically in data, Mike?
In data, and also just in leadership roles in data, and also within the company.
Well, first and foremost, they've got quite a easy route to really make this happen quite quickly, and that's by stepping up and being part of the Women in Data community. We have a very active agenda for partners and organizations to take women in data as a community back into their businesses with an off-the-shelf ready opportunity for them to deliver diversity through women in data to those teams. And we're working with leaders, both male and females, to really help them plan their strategy of how they can approach it first and foremost. That's a big thing for organizations to think about, how they're going to go about doing this. And we can give them some really core actions of what they can do to get momentum and get buy-in and support. And that filters through, and it also gives them an opportunity as leaders to come and connect to other organizations that are doing it in a non-competitive way. To say, what did you do in your organization experience? Tell us, how did that roll out? Because we're all on this journey together.
I think it also gives them the opportunity to, you know, different people within the community at different levels as well, to ask them what's their opinion, you know, of kind of leadership and what they feel and how they can bring change and you know, moving to Payal's earlier point about having that courage to have that voice and to ask people at lots of different levels.
We had an event here on campus last week, and leadership brought in an executive to talk with all of us about the importance of diversity and inclusion on campus. And I found it very, very powerful, and I love listening to him. And one of the quotes that he said, which I thought was beautiful, he said, "Leave the door open and the ladder down." And I love that idea that leadership needs to obviously have their door open so that people can walk in, but also create a path to help bring others up into that role, right? That's like the goal of a good leader, is like, how do I mentor people to get into my spot or above? Like, that's my job as a leader, right? So I love that idea, leave the door open, the ladder down. So I'm wondering, how do you take that same idea where women in leadership roles can then look and be intentional about helping other women succeed?
Yeah, Mike, there's something that we were talking about, what the negatives are around what we've seen in the last 12 months. And there's no doubt there is still a air of competitiveness between women, because ultimately they often are the minority. So if there's another female in the situation, it can become competitive. So you're absolutely right. There's a lady that we featured in 2018's collection of the 20 in Data and Technology, phenomenal woman called Verity. And I really do recommend that everybody jumps online and has a look at her interview. But her motto was hand out and hand up. Put your hand out and you know, give the person what you've got, and give then a helping hand and help them up along the way. Women need to support women. That's where we have to start. That's what women have to do right now, support each other.
And I have to say, I mean, there were some amazing examples of that at Women in Data at our flagship conference. You know, we had 1,000 people there. You know, there have been some examples where people were feeling down. They didn't, you know, they were standing on their own. They weren't networking. Someone went over and said, "Well, come on, I'll walk around with you." And so, you know, there were those lovely moments that were quite magical when you heard the stories afterwards, where you just think that's what this is all about. It is about helping each other and we're all in this together, both men and women, but we have to take that role, because at the end of the day, it's just going to be a more fun place to work in.
Yeah, definitely.
What should somebody expect? Somebody who's never been to a Women in Data event, because I've been to some events where I felt lonely. You know, I've been to some big conferences and I felt by myself, very alone, and I just wanted to go to my session and get in my car.
Yeah, no, I think that's something that is felt around the data conference circuit generally, like wherever you are on the planet. The data conference arena can be a really stark place and quite cold, actually. One thing you can definitely expect from Women in Data on our flagship conference particularly is vibe. We call it vibe. This has a vibe that you will never have felt in any other data conference. The community feeling straight off, the feeling of fun, the feeling of learning and development, and people wanting to be there. This is not a case of just taking a ticket to a data conference because you're bunking off work for the day. That is not the case here at WIN. It's a phenomenal benefit to it. And the feeling, I can't tell you, we've been compared to parties and weddings and raves, and from the fact that it's so celebratory.
Oh, I love that.
The feeling is unique.
I think also from the get-go in 2015, we were actually adamant that we would always have a cabaret seating plan for a number of reasons. You know as well as I do, if you go somewhere and you go with your colleague or your friend, you're likely to sit down and probably not talk to anybody else. Whereas if you sit cabaret with 10 people around the table, you've already opened up a very tiny community where people will acknowledge, oh, that was great, or what did you think of that? So you're already opening up those conversations before you've then gone and got your coffee at the morning break and you're starting to develop that confidence. And going back to the point of a rave, going back to data people, normally they find it quite difficult to, I suppose, be quite extrovert to start off with, and exactly, and warm up. By the time we finish this conference, before these girls have got a glass of wine in their hand, before they've even exhibition, it is literally the level of noise is just phenomenal.
Oh, that's great.
And quite often at the end, us, the three of us, will stand back and just think, wow, man, what have we created? I mean, 1,000 female data practitioners. It was pretty loud, really.
I think, Mike, you need to come and join us this year. So,
yes, definitely.
Yeah, so
invitation.
That brings back my other question. So for men who are interested, like how do men fit in this conference?
Yeah. So there's a few big things straight off. Our meetups are open to both men and women. So they need to sign up and register and be part of the community and put themselves down to attend our meetups. They'll then really get a clear indication of what happens at these events and feel included themselves. The learnings are for everybody. We're not just trying to create a sector and a community that is female only. We know we need men on this journey. So sign up for the meetups. Offer to be a mentor as a guy to a woman. It doesn't have to be female versus female for mentor mentee. Men can do this too, or reach out to a female to ask them to mentor you. I think that is a really great way to cross some barriers straight off the bat. What would you say, Rachel?
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. To reach out and give a helping hand, because we know that we're never going to be able to achieve gender parity without help from both parties. So I think any involvement at all, even if it's helping, if you're part of the network and part of an organisation with one of our meetups, we want the guys to come along. We want the guys to help organise. We want guys to contact us and say, look, can you help us with the meetup so that we can help them too?
Awesome. Friends, if you're wondering how you can support women, you want to help to be part of the cause to promote diversity at your company, or just promote the idea that more women need to be in tech, you got to check out womenindata.co.uk. Check out the articles that they're putting out. Follow them on social. Share their posts. That's how you can actively be involved in helping this mission. You don't necessarily have to be in an event, although if you can, go. But if you can't be at an event, there's no reason why you can't retweet, reshare out, promote the work that's going out there. It's so simple. I think about, guys, how easy it is to just tweet something. Yeah. It doesn't take very long, but just that simple tweet, going back to what Payal was talking about with confidence and just speaking up, that simple act of just tweeting out something that's important to improving our world and promoting diversity, it'd take you like a minute to tweet something out or share something on LinkedIn, but it can speak volumes to the people that are following you and listening to you and paying attention. You have no idea how you can impact someone else.
Most certainly. And there's so many brilliant stories on the website, Mike. There's so many different aspects and points of view and journeys. Go and read them. They're brilliant. And don't forget to nominate. We need you to nominate for our 20 in Data and Technology 2019.
There you go. There's your action items. We got our checklist. I'm going to do this. I already got some people in mind. So for those that are listening to the podcast, womenindata.co.uk. Put this down on your notepad. Action item: nominate a woman, share a blog post. 2 simple things that can make a huge impact on the women following you and also a woman's life. So go and do that. Thank you all for your time. It was great catching up. So exciting to hear about the movement that you guys started, and excited to see what you guys do this next year.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. Thank you. And happy International Women's Day.
Awesome. Bye-bye.